Hey there, I'm Mal. Pull up a log, I've got some coffee brewing, and stories to tell. Tonight, I thought I'd share how it all began, where all the stories that I grew up listening to originated. I grew up in a large valley called Gilly Creek, deep in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Mitchell County, North Carolina. That county is named after Professor and Reverend Elisha Mitchell, who discovered the mountain now bearing his name, which is only a few miles from this campsite. Professor Mitchell lost his life on that mountain, verifying that the summit was truly the highest point east of the Mississippi. Well, he would later be vindicated as his crude measurements were only 12 feet off the actual height of the summit. Can you believe that? He was 12 feet off of 6,684 feet. Professor Mitchell got lost coming down off the mountain alone and fell over a waterfall. He would be found a few days later by the renowned mountain guide and expert tracker, Big Tom Wilson, whose grandfather was my great-great-something-or-other grandfather. But I digress. Now, this entire area around here, long before the Scots and Irish made it here, was inhabited by the Cherokee and Catawba Indians. These native factions warred regularly with one another over land and whatnot, and a valley called Gilly Creek was in Cherokee territory. Of course, the Cherokee didn't call it Gilly Creek. They called the valley Anitsasgili, or, loosely translated, Lands of the Ghost Devils. They forbade settlement of the valley, citing the inhospitable nature of the land with its dense forests, steep rocky gorges, and pathless swaths of acreage. In addition, the Cherokee wanted nothing to do with ghostly devils in which they said occupied the land. So, mostly they hunted these lands with short trips to harvest meat for winter, always accompanied by a shaman or medicine woman to ward off the evil spirits. As time passed, Daniel Boone showed up in the area in 1760. The Cherokee made no protest, as Boone searched for viable paths to the west since they didn't settle the land. Boone did not find the passage he wanted, and he may have been the first white man to see the Gilly Creek area, turning back not long after fording the North Toe River at a place called Boone's Ford, about 2 miles from Gilly Creek. During this time of exploration in the Blue Ridge Mountains, Boone employed a guide named Hester Murdoch, a man of disrepute, as Boone later discovered, and fired him from the expedition as he thought appropriate. Murdoch, however, had seen all he needed to see to start land speculation. He took crude maps, most of which were highly inaccurate, and sold land to people in the central and eastern part of the state sight unseen. Never a man of detail, Murdoch sold many places to 2, 3, and 4 different buyers, ultimately causing so much litigation against him that he was nearly bankrupt by 1763. During the time when Murdoch was trying to reestablish his reputation, a young 20-year-old reverend by the name of Thomas Wise came calling looking for land to the west. Completely unaware of Murdoch's disreputable practices, Reverend Wise bought the Gilly Creek Valley for 1 pound of sterling silver, 6 bushels of corn, a mule, 23 muskrat pelts, and a milk cow. Several other families sought similar deals, and soon they all headed west to the mountains with crude maps and shoddy directions. As fate would have it, Hester Murdoch had no idea just how big Gilly Creek was. Having consulted a few Cherokee and having never explored the valley, Murdoch advertised the horseshoe-shaped valley at around 500 acres. In reality, the valley was at the very least 4 times that size. In April of 1765, Reverend Wise and a contingent of other families traded their wagons, useless for traveling the steep, narrow mountain passes, for livestock and horses in Morgantown on the edge of the foothills. 2 weeks later, as Reverend Wise and his bride, Alice, crested a wooded ridge above a large meadow. Before his eyes, Wise could not believe what he saw. To the west, the long arm of Panther Ridge stood in hazy purple splendor, bending around to the north, becoming the shoulder of Johnny Mountain. To the east, Laurel Ridge lay entangled in dense rhododendron, laurel and mountain ivy with steep flanks and hollows. Like Panther Ridge, Laurel Ridge ran to the top of Johnny Mountain as well, completing the large Horseshoe Valley. Reverend Thomas Weiss knew immediately that Hester Murdoch's map was wildly inaccurate. Gilly Creek was truly way more expansive than Murdoch ever realized, and Murdoch had no idea the bounty of land he had sold the young man of God.